to the front. And when you look from the behind, this is the anatomy that you see. You can see the left ventricle, the descending aorta, the left atrium, the carina, the azygos, the right atrium, and the cava. Now, if you look at the EUS on the right, it will show you the basic principle, which is 360-degree rotation in the mediastinum from aorta to aorta. So this is the descending aorta, and when you rotate, the video is not working, but when you rotate from this side, from the aorta, you go over to the left-sided pleura, which is forming the interface, then over the cardiac chambers, then to the right, over the right pleural interface, then over the azygos and the spine, and then all the way back to the aorta. So this is a 360-degree side-to-side rotation in the mediastinum, and that's the basic principle. So what you do for the esophageal imaging is you go down into the stomach, suck out the residue, and image as you withdraw. And the logic is that the scope is now straight, and every 3 to 4 centimeter you are supposed to go 360 degrees from one to the other side. As you rotate, the scope has a tendency to be pulled out, so you keep a watch, or you ask your nurse to watch at the markers at the patient's mouthpiece, which tell you that you are rotating at the same level. This is a useful clue for the beginners. Now, one must understand the anatomy in respect to the CT scan. You put over the cava over the right atrium, and then, as I have mentioned, you rotate to the left, you rotate to the right. You see the big left atrium, you see the pulmonary veins, you see the subcarinal space, the left bronchus, the right bronchus, the trachea, the rounding of the aortic arch, the right pulmonary artery, the paratracheal and the AP windows. So one must refer to the CT scan and conceptualize the anatomy in that regard. Just to show you the subcarinal space here. The subcarinal space is actually a triangular space, and this is where most of you will start doing the FNAs or mediastinal lymph nodes. It's a triangular space. Subcarina means below the carina, and below the carina you have this triangular space, with the upper end being the carina, the right and the left bronchus forming the sides, and the top of the left atrium forming the lower part. This is a transverse, this is a sagittal section through the chest CT, and shows you why the subcarinal space looks like it does. So this is the exact replica that you see on the EUS linear imaging. The upper part is formed by the right pulmonary artery, the lower part is formed by the left atrium, and the reverberating tracheal rings or the end of the trachea comes on this side. So this is the subcarinal space, or ATS station 7. This is the other important thing, which is the AP area, which includes actually station 4L, station 5 and station 6. And for this, you pull over the descending thoracic aorta and pull it back till it rounds off, then go 60 degrees to the right, big wheel down, and push in a bit. So you see this Mickey Mouse sign with two round things, the aortic arch on top, the left pulmonary artery in between. This is the virtual ligamentum arteriosum, left lower paratracheal, the subaortic and the pre-aortic areas. So ATS station 4L, 5 and 6. Obviously there are many more maneuvers, but this is where most of you will be doing the mediastinal work. Now coming on to the abdomen, if you look at a CT scan, the CT scan is displayed as if you are looking into the patient's body from below, from the patient's leg side to the head side, from below upwards. But when you do EUS, in your own mind, you have to flip the CT scan and conceptualize it like you did in the Gray's Anatomy textbook. So now you are looking into the patient from above behind. So my probe is here as I cross the G junction, and if with the knobs neutral, you start to see the left sided of the left liver lobe, and as you rotate to the right, you can see you rotate over the caudate and the cava, the aorta, and then on the left sided structures in a sweeping view till the spleen. So that's the logic of how you see what you see. In this cartoon, you see that unlike the mediastinum where the probe is facing anteriorly, so if you turn your hand to the right, your imaging plane turns to the right, and if you go to the left, you go to the left. But in the abdomen, your probe is directed posteriorly, so if you rotate rightwards or clockwise, the imaging plane goes to the left towards the spleen and the pancreatic tail, while if you rotate to the left, the probe rotates to the right because it is directed posteriorly. So this is the basic thing again that you should keep in your mind. The steps for gastric imaging are: you center the abdominal aorta, see the crest, push over it, see the celiac take off, see the SMA take off, the double barrel sign, and SMA marks the body of the pancreas, and then it is just a matter of rotating from side to side. This is a video I have taken from Olympus old CD, and which I find very good for conceptualizing the scan plane. So the pancreas has been taken off in this cartoon. This is the scope. This is a linear or a curved linear array plane which is directed like this posteriorly, and this shows you how you sweep from one side to the other as you image behind the stomach. So the imaging station is the upper or the mid body of the stomach. Your probe is directed posteriorly, and you simply sweep a few degrees, 5 or 10 degrees with your left hand to the left or to the right. So the plane is sweeping over the splenic vein, over the splenic artery, looking behind to the aorta, and you have the corresponding EUS images on the left side, and then it simply rotates to the left. You tilt up a bit, and then you see the tail of the pancreas and the spleen. So I show these videos so that you just understand how the images come up on the screen. My timer is not working, so what's the timer on?
Another 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. So this was just a actual video illustrating the same, but I'll skip this. Now then you go on into the duodenum, and there are basically 3 steps. As you cross the pylorus, your scope is in a long position. You inflate the balloon and you push in a little bit. So your probe now looks upward and behind, and you sort of wedge at the apex of the duodenal bulb. Step 2 is you deflate, advance to D2, D3 and shorten like a duodenoscope and start imaging. And step 3 is the papillary imaging, which you see as you withdraw. Now from the duodenal bulb, if you can't see anything once you advance the pylorus, it is always better to come out, go in again and push and wedge so that your scope is in a long loop position. That's the beginning in the duodenal bulb. And this is the kind of scope position that you see on the fluoroscopy once you are doing the duodenal imaging. And the perspective when you do imaging from the duodenal bulb is complex, but in general for the postgraduates, remember that the imaging is displayed as if you are looking from the right side of the patient. It gives you a right lateral perspective. So here is the duodenum, and this is the scan plane. You are looking from the right to the left of the patient. Also, the images that you see on EUS are the reverse of what you see in MRCP. In MRCP, you are looking from front to back, but in EUS, the image is from right to left, but also from behind to front. So if you have to understand in your mind and go home and study, I would suggest you look at these kind of images from Gray's Anatomy, which displays imaging looking from behind to front. So this is the duodenal bulb. This is the pancreatic head nestled in the duodenal bulb. This is the portal vein. I'm not sure my pointer is pointing out anything. And you are looking from the right to the left and behind to front. So if you keep that in mind, you will slowly start to understand how you look like this. And then obviously you know that if you are to look down to the papilla, you rotate clockwise. If you are to look upward to the hilar like this, you rotate to the left, when the imaging plane is actually looking from below upwards, as if I am looking at the roof above. Now for D2, I'll just take 2 more slides. For D2, you gradually go down like you do with a duodenoscope. I always keep a balloon on because that gives me a stability and also safety, and there is less risk of falling out, and there is better acoustic coupling. We shorten the scope, and then we do 2 things. We suction and we flood. In D2, practically very often you find a lot of foam. So sometimes we need a bit of simethicone. You suction, you flood, you suction, you flood, till everything is crisp, all bubbles are gone, and the duodenal folds are separated by the instilled distilled water or deaerated water. The starting point for deep duodenal imaging or a C-sweep imaging is D3. So the starting imaging is that the D3 is falling away from you Below are the jejunal loops which you cannot describe. And then this is the inferior part of the pancreatic head and the uncinate. And then you start to pull slowly with side to side movements. And you are imaging from here. And as you look, as I have mentioned, from the right to the left, you see the SM IVC and you see the aorta. And you see the inter-aortic cable, the pre-cable, the retro-cable, the pre-aortic and other areas. And you rotate from one side to the other. Now for the mesenteric vessels, you go a bit more right, and when you have the duodenum on one side with your probe and the mesenteric vessels on the other side, the part of the pancreas that is in between is the uncinate process. The superior mesenteric vein is closer than the superior mesenteric arteries. You can go very aggressive and define all the branches and everything, but time doesn't permit me here. And the last slide, which is also very important, as you pull down, you have to line up the aorta like this. So for the postgraduates, often focusing the papilla is very difficult. When you have the aorta in lineup, you are sometimes very stable. You can rotate to the right, be stable, withdraw. But please remember that you will see the papilla only when you see the aorta. So I call it the aortic lineup. Once you withdraw straight over the aorta, you have to come over the papilla. And once you see the papilla, you have the bile duct taking off and the MPD taking off, and the MPD is always away from the transducer compared to the bile duct. The area of the papilla is very important. One must use the proper nomenclature here. We use the terms ampulla, papilla, periampullary region, terminal bile duct very interchangeably. They all have a very specific meaning. Ampulla means that the two ducts are fused and there is a common channel of a certain length. Papilla simply means this mound in the submucosal area of the duodenal D2. And with today's resolution, we can define the papilla in exquisite details. Papilla is a structure in the submucosa of the duodenal mound. Neither of the ducts should be seen beyond the duodenal muscularis. If they do, they are abnormal. So this area is a talk in itself. We see the CBD, we see the MPD, and then we gradually withdraw over both the ducts. And this is how you also define divisum, and the short ventral pancreas is present. So this is not a talk I can summarize. This was a potpourri of the anatomy and the equipment, so I am open to discussion straight off. Thank you.
Any questions for discussion? I was actually very curious to know how many of you are doing endosono as a resident or as a post.